If you've ever thought to yourself, I'd rather just read about this than actually do it, you're not alone. The Enneagram 5 newsletter exists to help you move from knowing to experiencing. Every Saturday, you'll get insights designed to help fives grow without overwhelm. Sign up for free today at enneagram5.com/newsletter or visit the link in the description. Now on to the show.
So Cody,
Yes.
if you could describe yourself as a boyfriend in one word, what would it be?
Elusive.
All right. So we've got some guests today on the Enneagram 5 podcast. Cody and I have been talking about what it's like to be in a relationship as a 5. And we thought it would be only fair to turn the tables and talk to our partners about what it's like to be in a relationship with a 5. So welcome, Amy, my wife.
Hello.
And Madison, Cody's girlfriend.
Yay.
How are you feeling about this?
So nervous. So nervous. I don't normally sweat, but I'm sweating right now.
What do you?
You guys have been talked about for so long, so it was only a matter of time.
The great reveal.
The great reveal, yeah.
So for a little bit of context for everyone, maybe we could talk about your Enneagram types.
Sure. I mean, I'm still learning about it. And
Yeah, Sam, I don't know if I could go into detail.
Oh, you can.
So Madison,
I promise.
Madison, you want to go first?
I'm an Enneagram 6 with a wing 5.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean for you?
Like when me and Cody first started talking about the Enneagram, I thought I was a 2, but I think it was just because I was super unhealthy. And then when I realized I had anxiety and depression and started, seeing a therapist and getting medicine, I kind of was like, oh, I'm not that bad. I'm this.
oh,
But I don't know. I don't know how that makes sense. But
Yes.
but then I was like, no, I think I'm a 6 because I think I am a helper, but like the 6, what's it called? Like being super loyal and stuff.
The loyalist?
Yeah.
I thought we were being super loyal.
I think that I resonated more with that than a 2.
Yeah.
I think I also mistyped as a 2. I'm a 4 wing 5. And
That took us a little while I was not convinced in the beginning that she was a 5 wing, mainly because I was biased against her being a 5 wing, I think.
Yeah, it made perfect sense to me because her and I can talk for hours about all these random knowledge things. So even though she's definitely a 4, you obviously have
yeah.
strong 5 in tendencies to want to,
Yes.
when you want to learn about something, you really learn about something.
Yes.
And that's not something that every personality type does or has the patience for, or not even patience, but the complete disregard for all things in the world to learn about something, to be able to tunnel vision go into something like that.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I think when I first read about the 4 wing 5, there's still not really a lot of information about wings. But especially with the 4 wing 5, it was very stereotypical. And basically what they had said was this person is, wears all black and is very dark and is, lives in the void of, existential crises all the time. And if you know Amy, she's very bubbly. At least on the outside, she appears that way.
bright and colorful.
And so I'm like, there's no way you're a 4 wing 5.
But the last part you said, living in the void with existential crises.
Yeah.
All day.
Well, I think there was an element to it where, and this is something, I'll let you tell your own story here, but it was.
I mean, I'm still nervous, so you can continue speaking for me. Yes, that's fine.
I don't want to do that. But I think you had, what you had expressed to me was that because before, anytime I would love to dive into the void, and for you'd always pull back from that. And I think, I took that as you weren't a 4-wing 5, like you had no interest in that. But I think for you, it was more like you knew that if you started that, you couldn't stop. And so
I know where that goes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a void. You know, there's only one way. And that's not how I want to live, because I am consciously making daily choices to live. And so, yeah, 4-wing 5. I don't actually know what my subtype is yet. Might be self-preservation, but yeah, I mistyped as a 2. I also have some like heavy 9-ish tendencies, but definitely a 4-wing 5. Even as a kid, I was like, I just want a life less ordinary. You know, like that was like my big thing, you know, even before the internet and, you know, quotes.
And you were super hesitant to get into any of the personality typing stuff at first, because you're
Boxes.
like, yeah, don't put me into a box.
Oh,
I can't be defined. The number one thing.
I think it's really easy to mistype as a 2, especially being female.
Yeah, because society
just growing
sucks.
up religiously, and yeah, and like those were the roles I was supposed to fill, you know.
Well, and I find it interesting that both of you mistyped as a 2, and Madison has no religious background.
That's true.
That's where I
That's
feel like
true.
maybe it is more of a societal thing, but it's definitely a religious thing.
Yeah, when we were writing our vows, or more like it, you know, like picking the ones we wanted to slightly edit.
We still have those. We could read those.
We do have
are
those. I don't know
Oh, that
where
would be
they are.
so
We used to
good.
read them like every anniversary,
Yeah.
and then like the more we began deconstructing, the less it was like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
oh, do you? I do. Okay. But there was that part about submission in there, and I don't remember that conversation
boy.
completely. But,
it was so funny too when we actually read them when we got married, and the part about submission, you like
Tensed.
well, you like kind of mumbled it. you lowered your voice and just kind of
It's not surprising.
just like swallowed and.
I want to say I didn't even. Gosh, I forgot it was in there. That it
Oh,
was
yeah.
something I would have. Maybe
wrote that?
I mentally edited
Well,
it out.
we pulled off a template.
I Googled.
Yeah, and then I think we might have made some little
Typewritten.
tweaks, but you're supposed to be subservient to me.
Fuck you. I'm kidding.
I just want to precursion this with saying I love my spouse very, very much. This is the best part of living with a 5 is that I know that if we buy a big ticket thing or even a little ticket thing, that we will get the best product that's available after a very long search. The worst thing with living with a 5 is that they are very smart. I know my spouse is very smart. However, sometimes I feel like I'm not very smart because they have to kind of fact check every single thing I want to give a fact out to, or that I have to be double checked all the time with factual like things. So I feel like that's like the worst thing. And sometimes it can take them a long time to actually pick out the product that we are looking for because they are looking for the best product. That being said, I absolutely love my 5 and I wouldn't trade my 5 for any person in the world.
You know, the real reason why we invited you on here is so you could tell everyone how awesome we are as partners.
we're going to be so sorely disappointed.
No, we're going to talk through what are some of the benefits or strengths of being in a relationship with a 5, and also what are some of the challenges, which will probably take up the majority of the conversation. But that being said, I thought we could start with maybe some of the advantages of being in a relationship with a 5.
If you want to save some of them and we can sandwich the bad things.
We'll do that in
it's okay.
editing
It's okay.
later.
Yeah, we'll do it.
I'm also like not, I'm just now becoming comfortable on some level with expressing actual complaints with the management on things.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll
Now's
see.
the perfect forum.
Yeah. Because it's not directly to him; it's to the world.
It's
Exactly.
to all general fives.
You're expressing it as a general issue that you've dealt with.
I don't know.
This is the first thing that came to my mind, but
Madison's like, I've got this. Get jumping right in.
no, this is an advantage. I really do like to know what's happening in the world, but I'm not good at keeping up with it or figuring out what's happening by myself. So one advantage is that you're super information oriented. And so whenever I need to know something, or even when I don't need to know something or don't want to know something, Cody tells me about it in great depth. And I really appreciate that most of the time.
Most of the time.
And sometimes
Okay.
you're just like, oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like,
The world is
Or like,
burning.
I would say that, or also most of the time we're 2/3 of the way through in my mind, and she's like, "Cool, thanks.
yeah.
I've heard enough."
What about me?
It's
Amy?
me. Oh, no. It's me. I'm freezing.
How awesome am I?
Oh, you're fucking incredible.
Oh, that's so nice.
Thank you.
In what ways?
Elaborate, Amy.
Yeah.
One of the things I've said this to Josiah before is that I can't speak to every five relationship, obviously, but my personal experience with Josiah is that, and this could be relationships as a whole, but my relationship with Josiah, it's simultaneously, depending on headspace and everything, like where my focus is, but it can be the most lonely relationship of my life or also the most empowering because Josiah just wants me to be my best self, like love myself and whatever it is that I am here to be and pursue and that's what he wants for me, and whatever it takes within reason. That's just that's his expectation for me. And that's like his only expectation unless otherwise
Stated.
expressed,
Yeah.
which I'm still figuring that out. And have to remind myself, like, okay, he doesn't have any expectations of this thing that I thought there were like 5,000 expectations on.
Yeah.
Those are my expectations.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of like a double-edged sword, I guess.
Yeah.
If that's the
But that makes sense because
phrase.
if he's anything like me, like that's kind of one of the ways that one of the things that I definitely am in a relationship is that I'm the least jealous person. Like I want to be with somebody who wants to kind of be themselves and be okay with being themselves by themselves individually, have full independence.
Yeah.
I don't want to be with somebody who fully 100% needs me. Codependence is not compatible with my personality at all. And the moment I start feeling codependent, the more I want to like explode out of myself and like fly off into the distance, right? Yeah. Like I don't do that well. And I've been with codependent people and it was a very, very terrible situation because then I'd become mean.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the way that our relationship started, so when we were dating, Josiah had set up, I think, Thursdays as like, this is like my alone time by myself,
I bet that worked
doing
so well.
homework, et cetera, et cetera. And inevitably, he was always like, oh, I don't need alone time. You can come over. You can, like, I'll come over to see you. Yada, yada, yada. And then we got married. And
He was
of
like,
course,
I need so much alone time.
I need you to be gone. But of course, he didn't say that. So there was just like all of this, because of course you were working through your own bad programming, as I was working through my own bad programming. And what so when we actually started dating, we met and then we started hanging out months after we actually met, because both of us were in like a much better place. And I remember seeing you when I first met you, and you came shuffling in, and it was like you had this visible storm cloud of energy sitting on top of you. And I was just like, nah. and then months later, we were at church actually, and you came almost like Gene Kelly level singing in the rain, but with sunshine beaming over you, leaping over these chairs to say hi to me. And it was so completely opposite to the vibe you had when we first met. That swept, you swept me off my feet with that. And then we got married.
And the cloud returned.
And I thought, growing up in purity culture too, I thought it's because we've had sex.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Just, so like all these different
course, yeah.
things like that. But I think really too, it was these trauma bonds that I wasn't aware of, where when we got together, that wasn't a trauma bond, but the way that I continued in our relationship, I kind of sculpted it in this certain way that it shaped it into this kind of toxic energy pretty quickly.
I can add on that because I feel the same way. When I met Cody, he was also in a very dark place. And I mean, to be honest, I don't know how we made it through the first year and a half, maybe even 2 years, because there was a lot of stuff happening in your life and you were suffering very bad from like depression and being manic and all the things. And I had never experienced that with somebody. And so me being the 6 that I am, I was always like, and also having anxiety, I was like, is it me? Like, did I do something?
So what in those early days compelled you to keep going in the relationship?
I don't know. I mean, I guess like this sounds weird, but like when I like see somebody that I want, like I really wanted to be with Cody, and it was a really bad time to try to be with Cody. But I don't know. He made me laugh, and I don't really know.
I've always asked this question as well.
I really liked you. There was something about you that was almost, this sounds really cheesy, but like mysterious.
He's an enigma.
Elusive. Elusive.
Yeah. And it just kind of drew me in. Also, maybe like, I don't know, I like older guys, so there's a big age gap for this.
There's not a big age gap.
Well, it's almost 10 years, so.
Yeah, that's not nearly as bad as some people I know.
It's like big brother.
Whoa.
Right?
We did not have to go that direction.
All right.
Well, no, like your age difference with Jenna, with.
Okay. All right.
Which is exactly Madison's age. Yeah, your youngest sister is Madison's age.
Can I turn it on Cody and say why you kept,
Pursuing Madison?
pursuing me?
I have no idea.
He caught your scent.
Yes, you do.
He has a really strong sniffer.
Pheromones.
That's why there's always candles lit when Cody comes over.
So yeah, I'm asking the question of why. The same question to you, even during some of the worst, months of your life, probably.
You were the nicest person I'd ever met in my entire life, and had more. Well, and you were the first person I've ever met who I didn't have to question your love or affection in general, like towards everybody. Like, I feel like everybody who knows you knows that you are incredibly genuine and authentic in what you feel or say or do. Like, you don't hide your emotions. You wear them on your sleeve. So if you don't like somebody, they know. And if you really love somebody, they know. And so I always knew you really loved me. So I never had to question it. And during a time when it was really a dark time and didn't think, and I didn't know what love was, it was a nice thing to have around. It was kind of selfish why I kept you around in the beginning.
And I will say, I did not feel the same way. I was like, I don't know if he likes me. I knew that you liked me, but I didn't know if your feelings were ever going to
materialize into something solid.
Right.
Yeah, that's
and
fair. I didn't either.
That's only happened probably within the past 3 years, I would say. I think the first year to 2 years were pretty rocky because, it didn't help that you stayed with your parents for a while. And I don't know if anybody's done that, but it's not a good time to be in a relationship.
They've done that together.
We've stayed
twice.
At each of our parents.
Both of their parents.
Yeah. So that's not fun for anybody.
I can answer this question for Cody too.
Okay.
Because I've known him a long time, and you've heard me say this before, but at least part of it is you are the first person that he's been with since I've known him where you genuinely care about him and love him for who he is, not who you think he should be. Mm-hmm. And there are no strong expectations placed on him of this is the person that I want you to grow into. It's like, you're Cody, and I'm here with you.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
think-
that's huge.
A good story to support that is I was in our local community bar the other day, which I do. I play a lot of events and stuff and do things there all the time. And I walked in, and the owner said something about how his wife was such kind of a huge fan of you as a person.
Aww.
And the reason why is because of how she was like, she just like was really just, she didn't fake support for Cody. Like, she really supports him. Like, it's so obvious. Like,
I honestly-
she was sitting there singing his songs and like doing all that stuff. And I was like, I told him, I said, yeah, she's the first person to do that ever. Cause I think everybody put up with me before. They would put up with the things that I did, but they never actually like cared. So yeah.
I did not think that she liked me, so that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
But like that, going back to that genuine spirit. I mean, of course, you were talking about Madison, but that is one of the things that I so love and appreciate about you is you are who you say you are. You don't pretend to be anyone else. And that can be like with anybody, that can be a maddening experience sometimes. But then it also challenges me to, okay, like, do I love this person and accept him for who he is? Do I celebrate him? And that's been a journey too. Really seeing you and loving you, like not just saying that I love you, but really digging into what love actually means, going past infatuation. And
Like, what does it look like after the honeymoon phase is over, right?
Right.
Like, that's
Right.
the infatuation period.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, too, maybe I liked the things in you that I also wanted for myself, you know? Because, I mean, fives do want to be themselves, and unashamedly and unfiltered, right? And so to be with people who also wear their emotions on their sleeves and almost by default are themselves all the time, I think is...
yeah.
ideal partners for a five, I would have to say, probably, because it helps us be who we want to be also. Like, I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't start dating Madison 4 years ago. Like, I wouldn't be able to be genuine and break the mold that I always thought I had to be in most of my life and be able to actually, because, you know, I love people, but to be able to show love to people is a very different thing. And for people to know that I love them. I think you guys know I love you.
Yeah.
But you probably didn't know that until about 2 years, 2 years ago.
One of the things that I love most about being married to my five is his steadiness. As an 8, I bring a lot of highs to the table, but a lot of lows to the table. I'm very passionate, and sometimes I feel like I love riding the roller coaster and he doesn't. You know, the emotional roller coaster that I'm always on, my husband is not subjective to that same roller coaster. So he's very steadying for me, and having that in my life has probably kept me out of a lot of trouble that I could have gotten in, because I just gotta speak before I think, and he thinks and thinks and thinks and thinks before he speaks. So I feel like he's been a really great balance to me. The thing that has been more challenging for us is I am so expressive and he is not as expressive. And so, you know, I know my husband loves me so much, but sometimes I joke with him and say, like, I'm so glad that I know that you love me so much, because sometimes I'm not like hearing or like seeing all the feelings and stuff come out of you that so many people romanticize about romantic relationships. You know, it's the head knowledge that I have that my husband loves and adores me. It's not so much the emotional stuff that's pouring out of him. And so I would say that that's been more challenging, but it works. You know, we've been together for 11 years now and we still love each other so much. So in general, I would say that being married to a 5 and knowing him, knowing what it's like to be a 5 has been great. The Enneagram has definitely helped us out, because I know what to expect. I know what's going on in his mind. I know, you know, why he is or is not doing the things that he is or isn't doing. So yeah, I love my 5.
So, Amy, what did you think of Cody when we first met, like when we first started dating? Because Cody and I were already friends at that point.
Well, I remember the day that I met Cody. I'm pretty sure I remember that day, actually. And it was a stressful day for you. The things that were going on there. So as far as like Josiah and I, when we started dating,
Why was it a stressful day for me? You remember this more than I do.
I think you were having some relationship things going on at the time, and
Oh, okay, yes.
it was, I think, the day that we went and met the puppies, and we were all piling into my sister's car, I think it was.
Puppies?
And
He wasn't there for that.
yeah,
Was he?
the puppies.
What puppies?
The puppies. Puppies.
With like Ashley and
Oh, yes.
Meredith.
yeah.
Okay.
The
yeah.
puppies.
No,
Yeah. I thought that Cody seemed angry
yeah.
and lonely.
Yeah.
And most of the time his vibe was, I'd rather be anywhere but where I am right now. And I didn't really know how to talk to Cody
Yeah.
because most of the time it was like, I really just don't want to interact with you right now, but I also don't want to shout in your face because we're at church. I'm not supposed to do that here. Also, okay, now we're hanging out and I can tolerate you. That's fine. Sure. That's about the extent of it.
I don't. It's funny that I gave off that vibe because I don't know if I ever actually felt that. I mean, if I was there, I wanted to be. For the
Right.
most
Well,
part.
I know that now.
Yeah.
But my impression at the time.
Sure. It's just interesting. It is interesting that I would give off that vibe that I didn't care and didn't want to be there. And because that, as much as fives do that kind of thing intentionally a lot of the time, just to make sure people are kind of in their place.
Yeah.
That
In their place.
like in their place in a five's mind, I should say.
Oh,
You know what
gotcha.
I mean? Like we're making
I'm
sure
putting you there.
Yeah, we're making sure that everybody knows like that they're expendable or whatever the
Oh,
thing
God.
is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you know what I'm talking about.
No attachment.
Yeah, no attachment. And so it's like I don't need you. Like I'm fine. I'm just here to hang out with you, but like I don't have to be here. I don't need to be here. And maybe I was doing that, but I definitely didn't mean to do that. And so that wasn't like a manipulation thing or anything for me.
No, I didn't take it
It wasn't
that way.
intentional.
Yeah.
But but that could have easily been because fives do that all the time intentionally. So I just want to throw that out there. But yeah, I didn't even know I was giving that vibe off. This is the first time hearing of this.
Most of our interaction was nonverbal at that point. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, there
for
was
sure.
there
It
would
was
be
like
like
in
the
passing.
pleasantries. Yeah,
Yeah.
pleasantries and stuff.
Yeah, and my earliest memories hanging out with you specifically, and it's weird because there is that like weird haze. There's that gray area for me where I met you. I remember. I feel like my earliest memory of you is you popping out of a car in the church parking lot, like
Oh,
literally
yeah.
bursting out of a car.
Oh, that makes sense.
With those short cartoon anime shorts that you used to wear in various colors.
Oh, yes.
With the
Yes.
white stripes on the side.
Yes.
And always something very bright, and your hair was pink, and it was like that's what I remember of you. That's my earliest memory, which I don't know how early that was when you guys met, but that was pretty close, I think, to when
It
you
was
met.
pretty close. Yeah.
And so, because we were going on a trip or something,
you guys were going. Oh,
I think we were like packing or getting
Interesting.
back from a trip for the
Maybe-
church, and we were meeting in the parking lot.
oh,
There
so
was a
maybe
reason.
you saw me before we actually met.
Maybe so. Maybe that was
Maybe.
the first time you saw her.
Because Abby invited Abby and
was,
Adam
okay.
invited
Well,
you over
no,
after you guys had gone.
it wasn't.
to camp.
It wasn't after camp. It was there was another little thing that we had done. It was like a day trip thing. It wasn't camp.
Yeah.
This was because I remember we were in the car and we were driving by and I saw her, and I think that was like the second time that I saw her.
Okay.
And
I remember you being all like, like warm
That
fuzzies.
sounds uncomfortable.
Yeah, I just remember being like,
Digestive upset.
I'm like, well, what's going on here? Yeah, no, okay. So it's really weird to me. There is that entire gray area that I remember meeting you in that parking lot, or I'm not meeting you, seeing you, then kind of meeting you later, but I don't actually remember really meeting you, which is strange. But I was in a period in my life where I don't really remember a lot of it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was in an entire 4-year relationship that I'll be honest with you, I don't remember most of it,
Yeah.
which is very strange.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
you're just repressing it all.
Yeah, or just like it was all the same.
Yeah.
Right? So like we didn't actually do anything. Like got to the place where we were just kind of like functioning together and doing things like, watching the entire series of The Office, or doing like things where it would just do things together but not really together because it was just something that we did. So it all became monotonous and the same. So I remember like bits and pieces of that entire part of my life where from like 2000 I don't know, 8 to 12.
Yeah.
I have to really think through and be like, what happened first? And then what happened after this? And then what big part of my life happened after that? And then there is some things where I went into some of this in the religion episode. There is some trauma there that I think I am actually repressing, because it's hard for me to remember when I was at the church that, publicly humiliated me and did that whole thing. It's hard for me to remember exactly what year that was and what happened before or after that.
It's kind of how our memories work.
Yeah.
To protect us.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting. So I think in that period of time, it's really hard for me. But the memory that I do remember very specifically is I remember more getting to know you whenever I would come over with him to your parents' house.
Mm-hmm.
And actually getting to know your family and like that kind of stuff I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And so like specifically dressing up for the Dark Knight to go
Right.
see that one
Right.
is a very specific, very vivid memory in my mind.
Hard not to be.
Right. Well, I mean, we all dressed up. We did the whole
No,
thing.
you guys didn't.
No,
you
we
guys
did not.
Didn't. You were pissed.
guys
You
dressed
showed up.
Yeah.
You're like, you didn't let us know you
Yeah.
were dressing up, and we're like, we just decided on the fly.
Yeah, that's
Where'd you get all
true.
these costumes? These are just my clothes.
Yeah. Yeah. This is just her wardrobe and the makeup she had on hand.
Were you Harley Quinn? I think.
No, she was a female
I
Joker.
just went with like a Joker,
Yeah.
So Harley Quinn.
general Joker
Yeah.
Not exactly.
vibe.
It's
I
very
didn't-
close.
Yeah.
Harley Quinn became more and more like the Joker the longer I'm digressing. But yeah, no, I remember that really well. I remember sitting there, you guys sitting on the couch, all dressed up, and like I remember sitting in the seat, and it's weird how I remember very specifically how I was positioned in the room, going to the theater in Hickson, like
Yes.
the whole thing. I remember where we sat in the row. And yet, there's entire periods of my life that you're involved in I do not remember.
Yeah.
So that's...
It was a lot of passive hanging out, to be fair, too.
Passive
Like,
hanging out.
Like we were in the same room, we were all vaguely doing the same thing, but there wasn't a lot of like direct interaction.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Do you want to tell them what I said to you in the car on our way over to the movie?
I want to say that, were we in the car or were we actually in the theater at that point? I want to say we were in the theater. We had walked
we were in the car.
So at this point, we hadn't actually started hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
So this was...
It was
maybe
a group
handful
hang.
of times
Group hang, yeah.
handful of times that I had seen you. I don't actually know how you guys ended up at my parents' house to give us a ride. I don't remember how that transpired.
It's probably
But-
Josiah being like, we're all going to drive separately. Why don't we just all drive together?
Yeah, I just don't remember how. Like, I don't remember exchanging phone numbers at that point. I don't know how it happened. But
We
in any
messaged
case,
each other on AOL Instant Messenger. I don't know how long ago this was.
That was long gone.
you message me on anything, and it's probably still sitting
No,
there.
I was friends with your sister's boyfriend at the time,
Yeah.
and
So maybe that's
how it.
Okay,
that's how
that
it
would make
transpired.
sense.
Yeah.
That would make sense. So we had fairly, like, almost zero context for this comment. And you come up with this, like, if it wouldn't ruin your makeup, I would totally make out with you right now. And I had no idea what that meant. It seemed very obvious, but I was like, what?
was
What does this
just
mean?
being dumb.
Yeah, and my sister
you
was out of
weren't.
town at the time, and so I texted her, I called her, and I was like, "What? Who is this person? What does this even mean? Like, do I need to be like guarded?
Oh my
What's
God.
going on?" And yeah, and then you just like walked off. Walked off.
So
Yeah.
no makeout happened.
No.
No, my
definitely
makeup was
not.
fine.
No, definitely not. He was just testing the waters. He was sending up a weather balloon to see what happened.
And the
And
funny,
I know that now.
Yeah.
The
but-
funny thing is, I had never made out with anyone at that point.
yeah, so he was trying to be so cool and so sly that he literally never kissed a girl.
But didn't you have somebody with you or who met you there? I want to say that you did. You had somebody who met you there.
Yeah,
And that's one reason why I was so confused by this comment.
I invited the girl that I talked about in the our last conversation about the relationships.
Oh.
She was there. I invited her before. So I'm trying to piece all this together because it was so long ago. But I had invited her to the movie and then realized that we were going as a group.
Oh,
and then
that's
went
right.
over.
Yep.
And then she met us at the movie theater.
That's right. It was one of those things where you thought it was going to go a different way, and then it went that way, and you're like, shit.
So then you had two girls that you were interested in at the same movie.
Yeah, and
As a group hang.
another funny thing is Amy took a picture and had it on her Facebook for a long time.
Oh my God.
Even after we were married.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why do you still have this photo? She's like, 'cause you look so cute in it. And I'm like, look who I'm sitting next to. And she's like, I don't know who that is. And then I explained it to her, and she's like, oh, okay.
Photo deleted.
Oh my God.
I don't remember that.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
happened.
remember that.
You repressed that.
I
as
did.
well.
I repressed that. I repressed that, and then my trauma bonds and mistrust and
So let's shift gears a little bit.
I was gonna say this is a perfect segue
let's-
into the challenges
Yeah.
of being with a 5.
okay.
Now that we've talked about how awesome we are.
Yeah.
I
I don't know if we did that.
No.
but-
I think one thing that we are aware of is how challenging it is to be in a relationship with us for most people. Mm-hmm. All kinds of relationships, not just romantic relationships. But what are some of the biggest challenges you guys think?
I never liked when people said that's just how they are. That's just how that person is. But the more that I grew to know Cody, I was like, that's literally just how he is. Like he can't change that.
Yeah.
He can try, but he at the end of the day, he's going to be the same person. So,
Especially because you met me so late in life. It might have been different if you met me when I was 14.
And then how old would you have been?
No.
4?
In a different life where we're not 10 years apart. My God.
okay. I remember the first time that you came to my house and met my parents. Lynn did not speak a word to you hardly, and we watched the Olympics. And my mom was trying to be nice and everything. I mean, after that it got better, but it was not a good impression at first. And I mean, I think there are still moments where Cody may not live up to what my parents think that I should be with, which I think that is also common with anybody's parents. But, they've never said anything to me directly, but they talk about other people like, why did so-and-so just get up and go to the living room by themselves when we're having a party? And when I was younger, I never understood that. I was like, oh yeah, they're being a dick. Like, why would they do that? But now that I know Cody, I'm like, oh shit, he needs some time. He needs to go in there. It comes across rude, but inside me, I know what's happening. I know why he's doing that.
They're all extroverts. They're all loud and talking, and and I'm just I get so easily overwhelmed at her parents' house when everybody's over there.
And and they don't always understand that. I don't know if they understand that now.
I think they do because I've explained it multiple times.
Yeah.
That this is why I do these things.
But to them, that's rude, and that's
I do the same thing where I'm much better about it now, I think. But especially in the early days, I would go over to Amy's family's house, and it's the same thing. There's just a lot going on, and
different personalities.
And I would so basically how the night would progress is I would live in that for as long as I could, and then I would move to the other room, and then slowly they would all follow me into the other room, and I would live in that as far as and then I would go back to another room, and it was just like
Yep.
Yep.
That's how Cody
Yeah.
is.
It just I fade away. I have to have time where I'm just 10, 15, 20 minutes where I'm just nobody talk to me. I'm going to lay on the couch for a second.
I will say it took having kids for me to really accept this, but your energy conservation, your drive toward energy conservation, self-preservation, it can, so for me, setting up my boundaries and making my needs known is a really big challenge because it's very easy. Well, from the outside looking in, it appears as though it's very easy for you to prioritize your energy conservation at the expense of my energy. And that you can take for granted, you're just a high energy person anyway, so you're just going to do everything. And
Ooh, that's going to be something we haven't got.
And then I do.
You just do it.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Like our current sleeping situation, I have chosen this, nighttime parenting of co-sleeping, breastfeeding through the night. I have chosen that with our kids. But in order to help you maximize your sleep as well, I sleep separately. And so we haven't actually slept in the same bedroom for more, we had a couple of nights within the last year. But yeah, that energy, that drive for energy conservation. And I didn't understand it at all when we first got together, and I took it very personally. But I have come a long way in understanding and also recognizing that give you what you need as much as I can, and then you'll give as much as you can in return. And that also segues toward not taking anything personally and not like never assuming. And also standing up for myself. So what I said about you wanting me to be my best self. The self-growth journey that I am on, it has been spurred on heavily by you being you. And that you are empowered to be yourself even more now, I think, as you've accepted who you are, which is helping me as well in turn.
I can piggyback on that.
Cool.
So it took a while to figure out what Cody needed. And I think when we first met, I was codependent. I think it was mainly out of anxiety because I didn't know what I was doing wrong. I thought it was my issue when it was yours. That sounds bad, but you know what I mean.
No, I agree.
I had to learn that Cody also needed alone time, and I didn't get that because I if I'm with somebody, I want to be with them a lot. That's just how I am.
Same.
And it's not that
That's not bad.
Right. And it's not that I can't be alone or I don't know how to be alone, because I've had times in my life where, I would go out to eat by myself all the time. I would do this by myself, and it was great and I loved it. But then when I get with somebody, I guess that kind of takes the back burner, which I think that's normal.
For some people.
For some people. But it took a while to figure. I think it took until we were in the
500 square foot apartment.
Yeah.
That's the that's what everybody knows it as in this podcast.
I think it took until then to actually realize, okay, I want to go to bed and I want him to come to bed with me, but he's going to want to stay up and play his game, or he's going to want to stay up and work on music or this or that. And it took me a hot minute, and still to this day, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, like, just come to bed.
You're so tired.
Yeah,
just stop reading about crypto.
Right.
Aliens, I get it, but go to bed.
And it took me a long time to get to that point where I was not normal. I was okay with also, okay, I'm going to go to the bedroom and watch my show. I'm going to go to the park with a friend and do this. And I mean, I do that a lot now. Like, I say I'm super more independent than I was when I met you.
Way more.
Well, and that's where it could be like, it can either be so super lonely if that's what you're focused on, or it's empowering.
Right.
And like, I think what you've gotten to sounds like the empowering, the place of empowerment.
There's definitely still times where, we get in a little argument because I'm just like, you haven't come to bed in a week or two. And like, I need that like one-on-one time. I need those cuddles. But I definitely have gotten to a point where I'm expecting that. Like, I'm expecting you to need your alone time, expecting you to need time to do what you want because you can't during the day because you're working, stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and especially now, like lately, I've just been going nonstop. So I go from one thing to the next thing. So nighttime is me prolonging the day and actually getting time to do something fun or for myself that I never get to do during the day.
Well, yeah,
so it's worse lately.
Yeah, like the past 2.5 weeks, we were just kind of passing in the hallway type thing. Like, we were going to work, he was doing stuff in the evenings, I was going out and doing stuff. And then when I would get in bed, he would either be gone or still doing stuff. And so I think like last Monday, we actually had an evening off and we sat down and we were both like, oh my God, we get to watch TV together. We haven't done that in so long. It was so nice.
I think that as fives, we can get in this frame of mind where we can look at those type of things, especially if we're in an unhealthy place. We can look at that desire, the need that you guys have, as a burden and resent it.
I have definitely been in that space, though. To be fair, I own that. Yes.
But at the same time, it's when I step back and look at it in the bigger picture, on balance, it's really important because we can go hard the other way.
Right.
And it's so not healthy for us when we are just, down that rabbit hole or, in that space of isolation. And we need that ballast that tether on the other side that's kind of bringing us back towards the middle.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that you and I do that for each other as well. Like we're constantly pushing and pulling back and forth. And
Tell me more. Tell me why you love me.
and so it's important that we have that. And so I want to publicly state this, like even in those times where I can project this feeling of, you're a burden to me right now. In the macro, it's the opposite of that.
I've been married to a 5 for a few years now, and I guess there's 2 things that leap to mind. Firstly, there's a phrase I use, which is that she's all in or all out. And I guess that means that when she comes out of her sort of reflective private place and engages, she does it with a willingness, a totality, an engagement that's fabulous. And when she's not doing that, she can be completely distant, which can either be going through the motions or just withdrawn. So basically everything gets filtered through her mind, her inventory, which again is sometimes totally fine and sometimes not very relationship-y, to be quite honest. So, and then the other thing I was thinking about sometimes, I don't know whether this is a 5 thing or just a my wife thing, but there's a lot of times she's not aware of her own emotions, that she's got emotions going on and it's fairly clear that it's going on, but they don't fit in with her self-image or her plan or her kind of inventory of herself. And then she can be amazingly unawares of it. And then sometimes I have to make her recognize that she's having feelings and that her actual relationship at the moment is not just her opinions, but there's actually an emotion going on.
This might be TMI and you can take it out, but, and sorry if, okay, maybe not. Okay, never
Just
mind.
go.
No,
Just go.
never
You
mind.
have to say it now.
I don't even know what it is.
You have to
You
say it
looked
now.
at me like,
Go.
I'm just going to say like our sex life, that is also the same thing. Like I have to remind Cody, hey, we should probably have sex because it's been like this long and I need to have sex.
That's definitely going in the episode, by the way.
The connection piece for me, like I need emotional connection, please. For sure. Right. Otherwise it like the headspace of I am a thing to be used, like that's not where I am anymore, but that was very heavily where I used to be when we just weren't understanding each other and appreciating each other. And
like we would be watching TV and then I would want to have sex and then we go back to watching TV, that sort of thing.
yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's okay. That's okay sometimes.
Yeah, you're a 6 though. She's a 4.
Okay,
So.
sometimes.
And also too, like I wonder, and you can obviously correct me, but different people having you coming out of religion, coming out of a background, carrying different baggage for different reasons,
yes,
can project, right?
Yes.
Like it's really easy to feel. I mean, and it's also, I would imagine, easy for any woman to feel like they're a thing and used all the time because that's how society constantly.
The anatomy
portrays
of
women.
how it works, too.
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, it actually happens, right?
Yeah.
And like men do that all the time. But
I mean,
yeah.
I think we've talked about that when you were in unhealthy situations. Like, I don't want to say you used me, but like, I was there.
No.
For
I used you.
If you want to
For
say
sure.
you can, that's
100%.
fine. But
100% use you, yeah.
yeah,
For sure.
so
Yeah, like you're the
I was a sexy little kitten.
you're the epitome of evidence that a rebound actually can continue on and
Yeah.
become something later.
It's true.
Because it's essentially kind of what you were. Because if you had been anything other than yourself, you would have been a rebound. You would have just been the person that was there, right? But because of who you are and because of how you love, you stuck around.
Right.
And in the long run, a year later, we made it official.
Yeah. And I think a struggle in that aspect has been, if I was a rebound, we were having sex often, and then when we kind of plateaued and like decided to be boyfriend and girlfriend, you're not gonna be having that much sex all the time. And so I think that we've been working through that situation, but I just have to make it known, like, hey, like,
You just got to make your needs known.
Do we need to schedule sex? Like,
That's what all the people that I follow say.
Yeah.
All those sex therapists.
yeah.
Yeah, but see, my 6 wing does not allow for that to happen.
I mean, I don't
Because then it's too
schedule
much
stuff.
pressure. It's too much pressure. Then I know that it has to happen. And then it's an expectation. And then it's not fun for me. So it's been, it's a hard thing for sure. And,
I feel like we laugh together a lot. Like, you are one of the goofiest people that I know. And I love that about you. And the forgetfulness, the memory,
Yes. Oh my God.
the, like, just watching you do things sometimes. I mean, like, I was pregnant with our firstborn, and the Christmas tree, he was due in May. It was March. The Christmas tree was still in our apartment on the 3rd floor. And it had been there, like since Christmas, and it was dry and like a fire hazard, and it was super painful to walk by. And so I just like wrapped sheets around it, and like dragged it down the stairs. It looked like a body or something. And you walk in and you walk by and you just don't even notice. Like sometimes I would just move stuff to see if you noticed, like a Christmas tree. And like, oh, did you notice this 3rd child?
Come on now.
No, I know. But like it's entertaining to watch you sometimes. Like at night you'll go to get something from upstairs, and sometimes you come back with it and sometimes you don't. But you just like, you walk in just, just like ready to sit down and eat dinner and like watch something or whatever. And then, oh man. And then it just hits you, like, ah, crap, I did it again.
Yep. Like, hey, did you notice I cleaned the entire house? Yeah, no, I feel that. Definitely have not laughed with anybody as much as I have with Cody. So.
Same.
And I
Same.
agree, like, goofiest person. He may not show it to, like, strangers, but...
Josiah's
super
7 years
goofy.
of show choir really goes a long way in that regard. Yeah.
So I'm curious for each of you, as we're wrapping up the conversation here, what advice would you give to someone who is in a relationship with a 5 or wanting to be in a relationship with a 5?
Do they know that person is a 5 before they're wanting? I'm kidding. On my end, I would say if you're already in the relationship, remind yourself that you're making a choice every day, because that gives you power. When it's easy to feel, especially as maybe a feelings type, that you don't have any power in this relationship. Sometimes, if you let yourself go down that path of thinking, specifically take nothing personally and never assume, those come in really handy. Yeah, really super handy. And and recognizing that if you're here, it's because you want to be, and to stop questioning it.
Right. I
like
100% agree.
Yeah.
I think too, just, telling your partner how you feel and what you need, because most of the time they're not going to know or realize that you need specific things. So telling them that and conveying how you want them to tell you. I mean, just, I think that's really helpful.
It's easy for people I think it's easy for people in general to want to assume that the other person knows how they feel.
Right.
And I do that. I mean, everybody does that.
Cannot read minds.
Right.
make
you can't read minds.
make him responsible for reading my mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And but 5s love, as much as they may not want to admit it, depending on health levels and whatnot, 5s love good communication. Clear, direct communication. It's exactly what we want. We want checklists. We want we want it all on paper. Like, we need it all out in front of us. Like, what is it that you need? What is expected of me? And then how can I calculate how that's going to happen, right? Like, I need a plan, but in order to have the plan, I need all the information. And I think that's really important. Whenever information is collected and I can process that information, then I can go, okay, well, I need to do these things to make this better or make this right or whatever. And
the quality and quantity of the information is important. And that's the thing, is like what we're talking about here is the quality of the information from our perspective is very unambiguous.
Mm-hmm.
And so telling us exactly, what you're feeling, what your needs are, like that goes a long way for us. And the ironic thing about that is, like, you all would love that too if we communicated that, but we don't. We don't have those expectations of ourselves.
Right. Sure.
And
Yeah.
I will say really fast that fairly recently I was learning more about like this concept of being an energy vampire. And so I thought that's for a brief, like a hot minute, I thought, oh God, that must be what I am. And then I dug into it a little bit deeper and I realized I'm not an energy vampire. I've been desperate for connection and I've been throwing out these desperate lines trying to see if you'll catch any of the bait and like communicate with me. And so it wasn't even this conscious thing. It was desperation and, just trying to connect. And so then going back to being very specific with my needs and
I think
there's power in that for sure.
Yeah. And part of that journey
Healing.
for you has been recognizing and accepting that your needs are valuable.
Yes.
And that your needs are valid.
Yes.
And that you and not
Have
being
them.
Yeah, you have them and not being ashamed of, because I think that was the big thing holding you back from communicating them, was that you're
Shaming myself
you're
away from
shaming
them.
yourself, lacking
Yeah.
self-worth and that sort of thing.
Totally.
And so there were a lot of expectations that you had placed on me because of that, of it was more of a, from my perspective, it was more of a self-defense mechanism, because if you could place those on me, it was kind of a win-win. If I met them, then they were met. If I didn't, then it was a way for you to reinforce the walls that you were building up in a way. I'm sorry, I'm psychoanalyzing you right now.
No, on my end, it was if you could validate them for me, that would give my life, my person, meaning and worth.
Going back to being detailed to fives, if you want your partner to load the dishwasher, you have to tell them to also close the door and start it.
Well, what's funny is I was going to say, I think that you do quality information really well. Because you don't do quantity information. You don't tell me way too many things. You wait, and I don't know what inner battle that goes on to get you to this place, but you do it really well. You'll be like, you know what, you're making me feel this way because you're not doing, I feel like I'm doing all the things, all the chores or whatever, and you just kind of let it happen. And I really would appreciate it if you would do these things. Very specific and very
Good for
it would make me
you.
feel better if you did at least one of these things.
But
cool. All right.
I usually
Teach
wait.
me your ways.
I usually wait until I'm mad about it, because I'm like,
Yeah.
I've been doing these fucking things
Because you've been stewing.
every day. Yeah, I've been
Right.
stewing. So I think that's one thing I could work on, just being more communicative. About those things before it builds up and I get angry.
Because I don't even, definitely. Because I mean, when we lived in a 500 square foot apartment, I wouldn't see the dishes. And I just wouldn't see them.
He still doesn't see the
I don't. That's what I.
No,
like,
but
I
I'm
don't
saying even in a small,
understand.
close quarters,
yeah.
the mess has to be in my way before I'm like, this is a mess.
Yep.
I need to clean this.
Same. Well, on the topic of just household stuff in general, I don't want to do any household stuff. And it's not about me being a guy. It's about me being I hate maintenance in general.
Right. Same.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I do too.
And-
yeah.
Yeah,
And so-
I don't want to do it either. But
I
I also
don't
don't
wa-
want to pay some
Here's the
stranger
thing.
to come in.
Here's the thing.
Oh, see, I
I
would
don't
pay.
want you to do it. And I want to pay someone. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. And
I
so
think
I can
it's
solve
fully
this.
acceptable to pay somebody.
I
to
can
do it.
solve this
100%.
problem for us.
I have reached a place of recognizing that is a story, and that what do we gain by trying to force ourselves to do these things? If we can pay someone, then we are contributing to their quality of life as well, et cetera, et cetera.
And some people genuinely like doing that stuff.
Yeah, some people do.
like
I don't know any of them.
Yeah,
which
she
is
likes
why we're
doing
still
that
doing it. But
I will not do it for you though. I'm sorry.
I am not gonna. I'm not
I don't
gonna
have the
let you. I'm not gonna let you.
If I had the time, I would.
To wrap up this conversation, there's
Maybe
something.
this is just part one.
This,
I know, right? I think we could keep going.
we can do this again for sure. I just want to say that, Amy, I very much appreciate you, and I am glad that you're in my life. And every day I choose to be with you. Okay?
Thank you.
So
Madison.
I love you.
Same. All those things. Cool. This has been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having us, guys.
I think I stopped sweating. Maybe if it's hard.
See, I told you. I
yeah.
told you. You get used to it after a little while.
Yeah.
It was stressful for us too when we first started. It just goes that
You
way.
guys did great.
Did
Thanks
great.
for having us.
Until next time.
Hey, it's Cody, and I wanted to say thank you for listening to this episode. I also want to give a special thanks to our community members who shared their voice with us. If you enjoyed this episode and you're the type of person who likes helping others, would you do us a favor and share it with other people like you? If you found value in this conversation, they will too. If anything in this conversation has resonated with you, or if you have any further thoughts or questions, I want to invite you to join our community of other people like you and continue the conversation at Enneagram5.com.